Hey folks, Quill18 here, and welcome to Let's Try StarDrive 2. This is a quick impressions of a new game that has just come out. This is a 4X Empire space strategy builderino kind of game. It's basically something like Civilization in space. Obviously, it's the sequel to the StarDrive 1. Both of them are developed by Zero Sum Games. However, I think as we play here, you will get a very definite sense that more than maybe any other 4X game I've played in a very long time, this definitely feels like a successor to Master of Orion. I often say there's no such thing as Master of Orion 3. Obviously there was one, but it was terrible. But if anything, you could probably rename this one to something like Master Orion 3, and that's a pretty good thing. We'll take a quick look at some of the options here. The options menu is relatively Spartan, but it, gets the job done. It is a 3D engine game, but it's mostly played in a 2D style, so there's not a whole lot of stuff you necessarily need to tweak. This disable GNN here, if in the game there's a Galactic news network that will occasionally pop up. If for any reason that annoys you, you can always turn that off over here. The battle arena is interesting. Once we get into the campaign, the actual space combat happens on sort of a tactical grid-based screen. The battle arena, we'll go ahead and load it up, what the heck, is a series of missions that basically involves just doing the tactical combat, which is kind of interesting. This game is basically like two games in one. So here we can see like our first mission, we've got some enemies to our north, over here to the east, some more to the south. Here's our deployment zone. We've got 700 BCs, billion of credits over here that we can spend requisitioning ships. We can get some cheap little, I don't know what kind of class this is, little frigate fighter types, into larger ones and big ones, although we can't afford the Titans. We could afford a battle cruiser if we wanted to. You can see here, actually, I think this is the cruiser class, actually has a couple of different builds available. But you can also spend your money in this mode to unlock new technologies that you can use for these missions, which is quite cool. And more importantly, there you do have access to the shipyard, which allows you to build custom ships. So we're going to look into this a little bit more when we play the actual campaign here in a moment. But it's worth noting that every little square here is a system. For example, over here I could make some sort of change. I could decide, instead of whatever weapon that was there, I think it was was it a type of laser cannon? Yeah, it was a laser cannon turret there. I want a flat cannon instead. And you know what? I'm going to pull it back over here. And I'm going to make sure to put a medium chunk of steel armor in there. And maybe this makes me a ship that's better at just charging directly forward at people. So you can tweak this. We've got nuclear power. We've got all sorts of different systems. This is just a quick look at the battle arena. We're actually going to go into the proper campaign now. Where the same sort of functions exist, but within the grand scheme of a 4X empire building kind of game. Let's go ahead and load that up. The game comes with 9 races by default. They span a variety of different sort of personalities and themes, from cybernetics to plant people to humans to bear people to werewolves to these guys worship Cthulhu. These are underground people that are apparently repulsive, that everyone hates. We've got the awesome sort of traders, diplomats, spy masters over here, and the Cordrian Collective. I think, yeah, they're slavers. There's actually a technology in the game that everyone can research called slave pits. These guys actually start with it. If you have slave pits, you can build slave ships, and if you go and blockade a planet, you can actually start to steal some of their population as slaves and then bring them home, which is pretty crazy. Each one of these guys can also be customized. You can actually change them completely. You can say like, all right, I really like the look of the bear people, but these are not the sort of people that I want to play. I'm going to go and customize it, and you can go and change all of their abilities. So basically remove some things like, oh, I don't want them to be a high G race instead. I actually just want them to be charismatic bears or something like that. If you just remove all of the abilities, then you've got a completely blank slate, and you can make whatever you want. If I do this, there we go. So you get 10 pick points. You can also pick up to 10 points of negative stuff and create your sort of your race in whatever configuration you want. I'm going to go ahead and oh, the other thing you can do is you can save and edit these setups if you want, so that you can recall them later. So there we go. All right. Anyway, we'll go ahead and just pick let's say the humans, for example. Just it might be the best starting setup that we can, just to demo things. By default, the humans are industrious, which gives them +1 production per worker, so they build things faster. They're smart, so they research things faster. They are corrupt, so they actually make less money. Quality engineers gives their ship more hit points. They're also proficient space fighters, so they do 20% more damage in ship-to-ship combat, and they have a professional military, which means their ground ships have 10 hit point bonus. I actually found the ground combat to be quite tricky in my little initial gameplay here, so we'll see if I can do a little bit better. And again, we can customize it if we wanted to. Like, it'd be quite nice to start with Rich Homeworld. So if we wanted to start with something negative, like maybe we want to have somewhat less competent spies, for example, we could do that, which would allow us to pick up Rich Homeworld. And maybe Holy Land. We'll consider our Homeworld to be our Holy Land, which will give us plus 20 approval on Earth. There we go. We'll do something like that. Sure, we're going to play the slightly religious humans. All right, we can continue there. We can customize your race, change your leader name, change your empire name, as well as the sort of adjective that is used for your race. You can choose your color. Choose how many opponents. I'll leave it on 5, but it's worth noting you can have up to 8 opponents if you want, and that I don't think matters what size of the universe you're playing either. Difficulty setting, I gotta say, I'm not particularly good at this yet. I've only been dabbling with StarDrive 2 for a few hours here and there. Most likely we'll still get our butt kicked on normal, but we'll see how it goes. You can pick what opponents you have in the game. So let's I really wanted the Cordrazine and the Chuck. I could check them on. It would guarantee that they'd be in the game. And then my other... oh! There we go. Yeah, there we are. Oh, no! It doesn't work the way I thought. Ooh. I thought if I set the opponent list to 5 and I just checked 2, it would randomize the others. So let's not pick any. We'll just leave it at 5 random opponents. That's going to be perfectly fine. System count. We can go all the way up to 100 stars, each one of which could have multiple planets and asteroids and different things like this. Or we can have a tiny universe of 20. I'll leave it on the normal of 70, because why not? System distribution, how do you want the empire or the galaxy to be shaped? We'll just have a random clump of stars. Galactic fertility determines how fertile the planets are, so more Earth-like, which makes it easier for them to farm, and you can fit more people on them, as opposed to, you know, tundra planets, that sort of thing. Galactic richness, the richer a planet, the more production per person that you get out of it, and we'll leave it on normal. So you'll get a distribution of poor versus rich, but you can squeeze it from one side or the other if you want. Hostile threats. So, in addition to the other actual opponents, the other empires, hostile threats are just like random things that appear throughout the galaxy. Pirates, old remnant empires, various anomalies and things like that. They basically serve the role of things like barbarians from Civilization, for example. They allow you to have a little bit more of an interesting and, you know, arguably difficult early game, when sometimes the early game is a bit of a boring build-up in some of these games. So you can bring that up if you want. You can randomize the personalities. Like normally I'm trying to think of an example. I think the werewolf people are always really aggressive, for example. And the Dreylocks are always really charismatic and, you know, like to be good and negotiate things. Well, if you randomize it, you'll have no guarantee about what that is, and you can enable the tutorials or not. Let's go ahead and start. When you do, you get a bit of a background as to your race. And the start of this is basically everyone has just gotten access to the StarDrive technology, so that's why we were all on one planet, and now we are not. As the humans, we do start in the Sol system. Sol 1, 2... Earth and 4, so basically, you know, Mercury, Venus, although it's, well, actually, it might not be randomized. Looks like Sol 1 is, oh, no, huge. Mercury would not have been huge. So it is radiated because it's close to the sun, but it's huge and also heavy G. Sol 2 here is a medium desert. It's got some ancient mines as well as 2 delicacies. For every delicacy that you can, so there's a variety of special resources. Where do we find that list? Right over here. Strategic resources. There are a variety of strategic resources that you control, and depending on how many you have, you get various bonuses. So for every delicacy you have, you get a 5% approval boost in your empire. And if you get 4 or more, then you also get 10% approval from other races due to their enjoyment of your spread at diplomatic summits. So I like the fact that there are these extra things to go around and try to control. The ancient mines give us series of well-developed mines scattered across the surface. Though obviously ancient, the mining equipment is perfectly serviceable. I actually don't know what these ancient mines might do. They might give you a production boost, which would be good because the planet itself is poor. And Sol 4 over here has massive caves. Increase the maximum population of the planet by +2. It is a tiny, barren planet, so I think this number doesn't factor in the massive caves yet. I might be wrong, though, because this one is medium, and it's got 3. This one is tiny, it's got 3, so maybe it does factor it in. And then we've got Earth, a medium, Terran, rich planet, because we did pick rich homeworld with normal gravity. On low gravity or heavy gravity planets, you can get a penalty to production. You can also choose whether you've got whether your starting planet is low G or high G. If you start at a low G planet, it is a disadvantage, so you actually get some extra points back, and unfortunately you suffer additional penalties on normal planets. Whereas if you start on a heavy G planet, normal G planets are fine. So here is Earth. Kind of a nice little view. Again, if anyone has played something like Master of Orion, this setup here should be relatively familiar. Our population, so Earth has 8 people, and you can see them all represented here, can be assigned to be farmers, workers, or scientists. Each farmer on this planet, because it is Terran, I believe, will produce 2 food per. Yeah, planetary base here. We produce 2 food per farmer, so we've got 4 assigned, so we're making a total of 8 food. Each unit of population on your planet eats 1 food by default, so these 4 farmers are going to go ahead and satisfy all the need for food on my planet. We've got our production, or industrial workers over here. I guess they're just called workers. So they're producing a certain amount of production, so by default, this is a rich planet, so we produce 5 units of production. Humans are industrious, so we get an extra 1 from there, which gives us a work output of 12. However, we do get pollution based on how much we are working. So if I went and like put no workers here, you can see we get no pollution. Here we get 1 unit of pollution. Now we're getting 4. And then for each unit of pollution, you actually lose some of your production. But our people are happy because they're on a religious homeworld. So we're getting further bonuses over here. So that all works out to about 10 production. We've got some scientists assigned here. We can drag them around if we wanted to. You can hold control to grab a specific one. That becomes important later when you have a mixed race planet, because you might want to grab a specific type of dude because, for example, our humans will always be industrious. So if we have other races on here, we might want to assign the other races to be farmers and scientists while the humans just focus on producing. Over here, we can choose our next production in our queue. I think a good starting thing might be to pop out another colony ship, for example, so we'll go ahead and queue that up. We've got also freighter fleets. Actually, hold on, I'm going to queue up a freighter fleet first, just by restructuring it over here. Freighter fleets can move food from planet to planet, so if I happen to colonize a barren planet, for example, I might have to ship food from Earth. Construction ships allow you to build deep space refueling stations, as well as sensor panels, maybe other things too. I haven't explored the late game of the game yet, so we'll see how that goes. And then we've got our combat vessels over here, as well as spies that we can use defensively or offensively in diplomacy. Here we've got some buildings we can build. I'm not going to build the Fleet Academy right now. I'm going to hold off on there, so that'll be fine. And depending on my production rate, so right now we're making 13 hammers, it takes a total of 50 production to build the freighter fleet, which means that we will build it in about 4 turns. We've got ground forces on this planet because we can see the list of our existing structures over here. We've got an infantry base, and every 5 turns it will pop out a new infantry unit up to a maximum of 6, or the size of the planet, whichever is less. So in this case, we'll eventually get a total of 6 ground forces. They will defend you against ground-based invasion, but if you have freighters available, you can also grab some and then launch them into space. I think you can put 4 troops on each transport, but we don't have any transports currently. You also get this upgrade screen that we'll look at later, but we can basically customize each unit of infantry with its own personal layout. It's got a couple of pre-made loadouts that we can quickly load on if we want, but we can also just make a tweak, for example. So, for example, here, we might want to have someone with a laser rifle and a deployable shield that they can put in front of them. And then we're going to have to decide, let's see, we've got a speed of 5. Our laser rifle takes 3 action points to fire. So really, we can go ahead and equip him with heavy armor as well, which brings our action points down by 1. But we're still going to be able to fire a laser rifle every turn, so that's pretty good. If we could get our speed up to 6, we could actually fire a laser rifle twice per turn, for example. So we've equipped that guy. As far as I can tell, there's no specific cost to tweaking their loadout of individual infantry units, other than trying to sort of min-max what your configuration is. So go ahead and close the screen off, and we'll go and zoom out to the galactic view. So this was our initial solar system. We can, of course, zoom out quite a bit. So this is the area controlled by the United Federation. Everything in blue is considered to be my territory. And within it, my fleets don't use any fuel. It's within my refueling range, for example. But if I go outside of this range, then I start to use some fuel. So I do have a fleet already, right over here, my human fleet. I start off with 1 colony ship and 1 exploration frigate. So right away, let's go ahead and send them in sort of different directions. On the star map over here, there's a few things to point out. We've got other stars, for example. So here, 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 here. These are other stars within range. And then we've also got some anomalies that we can check out. So we know there's something there, but we don't know what it is. Now, I'm going to go and split my fleet here. I'm going to send my colony ship over to this yellow sun. Yellow suns, the orange stars rather, tend to be more life-sustaining planets. Maybe a little lower in richness, but, you know, maybe a good food base. So we'll go ahead and send our colony ship that way. And then we'll go and grab our, right here, our exploration frigate, and send it somewhere else. Now, it's worth noting the ships do have individual fuel. This guy here does have additional fuel cells because they have a base of 100 fuel, but this exploration frigate has 460. So he's definitely going to be able to go outside of our borders and spot some more things. Let's go and check out one of these anomalies first, though. And that's a pretty good start. Now, let's take a look at the interface. We've got our option menu over here. We've got our research screen over here. Again, this research screen should seem very familiar to anyone who's played Master of Orion. Research is divided into 6 different categories, and there are different levels. So, for example, this off-world industry level. So this is the construction tree. This is construction level 1, which is called off-world industry. I've got 2 options here. I can research the automated rover bay or the xenomine. And, whoops, I didn't actually mean to click on it. There we go. Or the xenomine. So I have to pick one or the other. I don't get the other one. After I've researched, say, the automated rover bay, then it will move this screen to construction level 2, at which point I'll have a choice of polymer armor, fighter bay, and plasteel armor. This is actually one of my favorite features from Master of Orion because it forced you to make interesting decisions at every level. You had to pick one or the other. You didn't get both. It is worth noting there's a very expensive racial trait called creative. If you've got that, I believe you'll get everything at a level. And it is very powerful, but it was costing 14 points on the racial setup screen, so ouch. Now, you can fill in these gaps, things you have left behind, through trade, or possibly through conquest, for example. Actually, we're going to start by researching the research lab, since that sounds pretty good. It is interesting, just like here. So the automated rover bay gives you +1 production per worker and a +5 flat production. Or you can get the xenomine, which is 3 production per worker. So at 1 worker, this will create 6 production. Or, yeah, so at 0 workers, this will create 5 production. At 1 worker, it'll create 6. At 2, it'll create a total of 7, and so on. Whereas a xenomine gives you more per worker, but doesn't have that flat base. So you need to assign more workers, but if you've got, like, more than, say, 2 or 3 workers, this one is a lot better. Same thing goes on down here. Imperial University just gives you way more research for scientists, but the research lab gives you passive research. Research lab is nice to spam everywhere, whereas Imperial University, you're going to want to focus on a big planet with a lot of population that you'll always have researching. What's better? I actually don't know at this point in the game. And then we've got here's the astrometrics lab, is something you build on a ship. You add this to a ship, and you're going to have to put this basically instead of weapon systems or something else, but it gives you research per turn for free and gives you some more sensor range, which is kind of nice. Plus, apparently gives us more accuracy for shooting. Really interesting set of choices. I'll go and take the research lab. I think especially early on, I may not be able to dedicate a lot of people to research, so I'm actually going to be quite happy for that +5 flat research to start off with. So this will cost us 80 beakers. We're making 4 per turn right now based on our 1 scientist, and that's going to be okay. Next screen over here, we've got our Empire Management screen. These are the planets within our Empire itself. Right now we only have Earth. We get the stats at a glance over here. We can move the population around here if we want. Obviously, we're going to try to keep positive food. Now, it's worth noting, if I move here, you can see Earth has currently got a food shortfall, which means its population will probably shrink over time. It's also quite unhappy because of the food shortage here. There's also an overcrowding penalty. The bigger your planet gets, or rather, the closer your planet gets to its maximum population, the less happy people will get. It's also worth noting you have an empire-wide food summary. This will become important once we've got multiple bases. Keep that balanced over there. We can tweak the buildings rate. We can choose the tax rate. Taxes, I don't think, make your people unhappy, but what it does is you're transferring production from actual production. So your hammers that you're producing here, you're moving it, if you check the building time, you're moving it from actual construction into money. So you're trading off hammers for cash. So we'll leave it low for now so we can build another freighter fleet a little bit faster. Get some leaders as you develop the game. Some of them are really well suited to being on a planet. You can see here on the planet we can... maybe because I don't have any leaders. I was sure there was a square somewhere here that you could assign a leader. Maybe that'll come up later on. And you can also, some of them are really good at leading ships, so we'll take a look at that later. And here are all the planets that I have spotted. We can sort them by different criteria. We can filter them out. This is a good way to figure out, once you build a colony ship, where you might want to send someone, for example. Sol 1 is actually a really, really, really good candidate for for colonization at some point, but I'm going to just sort of leave it in our back pocket there, just because it's big. We've got our diplomacy screen, but we haven't met anyone yet, so we'll come back to that later. We've got our fleet screen over here, where we can track all of our fleets independently. We can quickly, I believe, jump to one. Yeah, if we do that, it's just zoomed the screen into one of these fleets. This is also where you access the shipyard, where you can go and design new ships. So if we take a cruiser template, we can see here, it's already got a steward class layout pre-made for us. It's a good way to find out if, you know, hey, what's a good idea to build a ship? Load up an existing layout, or we can just grab this and start with a blank slate and lay it out ourselves. So we'll do that maybe a little bit later. You'll also notice there are a variety of other layouts down here, or loadouts, and they're grayed out. We can click on them here and see them, but there's something in this list that we are missing. We cannot build this ship right now because it's missing some sort of technology for a desired gun. As we unlock that technology, this will become ungrayed out and to indicate that, hey, you can actually build this right now if you want. You can also, I know we haven't played a turn yet properly, but when you are building here, there's the roster of vessels, and we can add to this roster based on these things. But again, you need to have all the technology there for those pre-made ones. And then there's a little tutorial screen that we're going to skip out on. Okay, let's go ahead and play a few turns. I'm going to hit space a few turns to skip ahead here. Mostly we're just going to have our ships fly. Nope. One of our colony ships has arrived in the habitable system, Adro. So you can see here, the colony ship hasn't actually finished, unlike something like Master of Orion, for example. You don't go directly from system to system. I can, if I want, just fly around. See, by doing this, I can fly around anywhere in space. I can go to any point I want. But we're within sensor range of the system, so we've discovered the planets. Looks like we've got a tiny, arid, ultra-poor. It does have artifacts. Would give us research here, but that's pretty terrible. You can actually colonize asteroid belts, which is really cool. You get some technology later on that makes this way more viable. Medium, radiated, abundant, normal G. It does have ancient mines, but I don't know if we want to settle there. How much fuel do we have? We actually have 300 units of fuel. We could, with this ship, now we haven't used any yet because we're still in the refueling range. We could make it out over here. We can see from where I am, it's 113 astronomical units away. So around here, we'll start to spend fuel. We'll easily get here and be able to get back. If you run out of fuel outside of range, what will happen is your ships will, you'll lose control of your ship. It will automatically try to move to the closest friendly spot to refuel, and it will move very, very slowly. So you generally want to avoid that. Next turn here. This guy... Oh, I hadn't clicked on the anomaly correctly. My bad. What do we get here? A mysterious asteroid. Floating alone in deep space, this mysterious asteroid appears quite clearly to have been artificially created. By whom and for what purpose remains a total mystery. We could study it if we wanted to dedicate some resources to the task. So, if I had 5 freighters around, I could tow it back. If I had 100 billion credits, BCs over here, I could send a science team over there. Either way, it unlocks a special project called Study Mysterious Asteroid. Alternatively, I could decide to blow it up if I was worried someone else was going to grab it. I'm going to leave it alone for now until we come back later. Those special projects are worth talking about. In the research menu over here, you can see this list of special projects. So once we are able to either tow that asteroid back or send scientists to it, we will be able to have a special project here, and we can allocate some of our tech to it. So I've run into this asteroid in my previous game, and I was able to spend the 100 billion credits to send out a science team, and the special project for it was going to take 150 beakers, which isn't bad. You can see our level 1 techs cost 80. The level 2s go up to 150, so it's basically the same cost as level 2 tech. When I finished researching it, it gave me a very, very special biological weapon bomb, basically, that I could use to destroy population on planets from space without hurting the infrastructure. Also without nuking the planet and causing it to go radioactive. So that was kind of interesting. It's also worth noting there's an experimental tech field over here. It starts off relatively expensive. It's always 500 beakers, apparently. And what this will do is it will unlock a random technology. And this includes technologies that are unique to your race. At some point, you will want to go through here. You don't know what you will get, but it will unlock some pretty cool things. Oh, and by the way, if you've noticed this little symbol over here, this is it indicates that this ion beam can, not only can you install it on your ship, but I believe you can also, or I believe you can install it on a regular spaceship, but it also gets automatically equipped on fighters. If we look at our construction thing here, our level 2 tech, one of the abilities is the ability to put a fighter bay on a spaceship, which is awesome. All right, freighter fleet got completed. If we click on that, it'll zoom us into the Earth. One of the complaints I will have is if there's not anything in the queue, it actually won't warn you about that. It'll quite happily let you spend several turns with nothing in a build queue on a planet, and I don't think it auto-converts the wasted production to money. So maybe that's something we can look at. Anyway, this scout ship over here, we will go ahead and send it to this star. We'll have it wrapped it back around to the south. Check out this anomaly a little bit later. We still have our colony ship over here. If we take a look, our colony ship is now starting to spend fuel because it is outside of the range. Meanwhile, we've checked out Halus over here. It's got a large toxic planet with diamondite. Ooh, 5% bonus hit point on ships. That's cool. Gas giant and some sort of object over here. Let's go and check out to see what that is. Whoa. Oh, hey, our first GNN report. Which is, whoa, very loud. So, as I said, let me go and turn that down, actually. As I said, this is something you can turn off in the options, but I quite like it. So you get random news reports. Hello and welcome to GNN, the Galactic News Network, broadcasting to you live from a highly secure location. And kind of a throwback to Master of Orion. In today's news, reports are filtering in that 6 new races have taken to the stars, marking the start of a new cycle. Will these fledgling races repeat the mistakes of those who came before them, or will one champion emerge to claim a victory? Over the coming weeks, we'll be taking a closer look at each of these races to see how they're coming along now that they have those star drives working for them. We'll be back with more as we have it. Until then, this has been GNN. All right. And this colony ship arrived here. Still not a winner. I mean, you can fit a lot of people here, but it's poor and radiated. Now, there's some extra stars. I'm a little worried that it'll be out of reach here. I would have liked to colonize by now. If I go here, how much is that? You know what? We can get to this star and then back in the friendly territory before we run out of fuel. So we're going to go and do that. Meanwhile, over here, let's hit next turn. Boom. Greetings! I like how there's a different font. I am Indica of the Polyp Symbiosis. Isn't it a great day to make some new friends? So we've just met someone because I believe we've just gone through a wormhole. Let's discuss and open up the negotiation screen. So these guys are good. Good races frown upon those who prey upon other good and honorable empires, and they will readily express their displeasure at imperial aggression. This trait here does a good job of dividing the galaxy into 2 sides, basically, and ensures that there's quite a bit of conflict, which is a good thing. They're expansionists. They want to grab as much land as they possibly can. They value their colonies and yours at 50% over their normal valuation. So this can affect their military strategy, but also affect some of our trading options. They're also cunning. They like using spies more often. All right, good to know. So we can set up some trades. There's a few interesting sort of parameters going on here. We actually don't have much in the way of trading. There we go. We've got treaties as an option. First of all, there's the opinion of each other. Right now, 50% here and 50% here. And then there's down here, there's tolerance. Tolerance shows how much they're willing to trade. Now, for example, if we mouse over trade route small, we can see it's a 30 tolerance impact. So we could probably set up a trade route this way. They have the same values. That's different from tolerance. Value is the goodness of this. So we can have a mutual trade agreement this way. It is one-sided. For example, I could, if I wanted to, I could give them a technology in exchange for the ability to send trade ships to their empire and make some money. It doesn't have to be the same thing, which is kind of neat. Non-aggression is the same. Foreign exchange, you always have to do the same thing. But here, all right, I've got a pop-up that I didn't want. It is freshly released. I think I clicked away too fast and I left a pop-up there. Oh, let's get rid of the demand tribute. But yes, we can see that there is this tolerance here. So they'd be very willing to set up a trade rights for small, which would be 2 trade ships. But if we try to bump it up to the medium one, oh, medium is 50, that's okay. But if we went to the large, even though it's the same value, and so the deal is fine, we don't trust each other enough to organize one of these big trade deals, which is, I think, pretty cool mechanic. I'm quite keen on this whole sort of thing. So we'll go ahead and, you know what, maybe we'll just sign a non-aggression pact for now. Now, the tolerance does get consumed, so if we were to instantly go and open up a new diplomatic window, I believe the tolerance should be lower, but it will rebuild over time. And if we have a non-aggression pact, we should be nice and friendly. So yeah, let's go ahead and do that. Rays of Light! Good doing a trade with you, Quill 18. You're damn right. So now we can open up the diplomacy window, and we can see the Polyp Symbiosis over here. We can see we have built up no intelligence points against them because we have no spies. We can do operations with our spy. We're not going to do any of that now. We have a non-aggression pact for 50 turns. If I go and recontact them, we can check out our tolerance is already being used up here. The max of our cap of our tolerance is higher, and I believe it's because we have friendship. right? Like that, non-aggression pact improves our approval rate by 10%. We'll have to renew it from time to time, but that's okay. Max tolerance is higher, but we have to burn off some tolerance points before we can feed in some more things. So I wouldn't even be able to do a small trade treaty right now because it's just too much. So we'll come back. I like the diplomacy system. I haven't seen anything exactly like that before. So we've got some scouts that arrived in a couple of different places. How do we scout this system? We don't actually have a ship here. Maybe our sensor range just grew or something like that. How odd. There's an electromagnetic field around this planet. Wow! 50% reduced production in science. However, you can get a special project to remedy the situation. It's huge, barren, which means, you know, that's basically there's no green spaces, so it's not good for farming, but abundant minerals. And it's got 2 sources of helium-3, 10% fuel efficiency. I think we're going to want to colonize this and start on that special project ASAP. So this is our wormhole. We've gone and explored it, which has caused us to jump over here. So we are nowhere close to the polyps, except for the fact that there is a wormhole over here. Now, I'm outside of range. If I wander around too much, I will definitely run out of fuel. I'm going to prioritize popping back through the wormhole. Ooh, not that way. I have to actually click on the wormhole. There we go. Meanwhile, I think I'm going to actually go and colonize Taylor. That's pretty good. I'm gonna prioritize sending my colony ship that way. I'm also going to make sure to colonize somewhere in Hellas. Actually, here, Hellas, the large, radiant, abundant, is actually quite nice. We will go and colonize that because I want to have control over the other end of the wormhole. It's going to be incredibly important to do. Scout ship, well, you've got full fuel. Why don't you go and check out some more stars over here? And I'm not going to say that I'm playing this, like, right or correctly, but we're going to dabble with it a little bit more. Scouts have arrived at the Pearl system. What do we have here? Medium radiated, ultra rich with orbital habitats, which gives us more population. This is amazing. We're going to want to spam out as many bases as possible. Can I get over here safely and back? Looks like yes. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Holy cow. Might actually be even better. In fact, I think it will be better to colonize Pearl here first. Now note, until we dock at a friendly base, we will not refuel, but I definitely have enough to refuel. From here to there, it's 178 AU, and I have enough for 186, but we're actually fueled to right over here, so we'll definitely go and do that. Meanwhile, let's check our planets. So we are still building that colony ship. We're sciencing a little bit. I'm actually going to rush the colony ship a little bit more. In fact, we'll finish that and then we'll put everyone over to science and try to get the research lab up as quickly as possible. We have met High Lord Octavia of House of Artel, leader of the Draylock Council. Welcome you to the stars and look forward to dealings we will have. You can see here our tolerance is much, much lower. My tolerance is very high. Their tolerance is very low. And I think it's because, yes, they're wary. So they have look at, did you see that display? Sort of faded in for a second. Is there some sort of illusion going on here? Look at that! This is an illusion! I didn't notice that before. I've been dealing with these guys in my last game, but wow. We also started with a protophile cache, so they have a special resource already in there. But yeah, they have less tolerance. They're mercantile. They value trade right treaties at 50% above their normal valuation. And they have only half the normal tolerance points. Their side only. So, okay. So here, it's a little deceptive because if I mouse over here, it says 30 tolerance impact. But if I put it in there, it actually says 15. So they're much more willing to do trade agreements because they don't value it as tolerant, and they double the value. So if I were to just give up trade rights, because normally I don't think it's got. I think this had a value of 200 in the other deal, didn't it? So now it's 300. So if I were to just offer them this, I could get a lot out of them. But let's go ahead and set up some mutual trade routes. We're close enough that we can probably run some trade ships. So this will allow, if I've got some spare freighters around, up to 2 of them will be used to do trade, and then we'll bring in 2 BC per turn each. And that's pretty good. So let's get that going. Plus we'll make better friends with the weird, creepy-looking people. Here's the Draylock Council here. Looks like they've already rushed some of the expansion, so I'm a little bit late to the game, but not too much. All right, we checked out the bronze system. I don't actually have to move in anymore. Lots of resources here. Not particularly nice to build colonies, but lots of resources. Can I get over here and then get home? It's a little bit doubtful. Let's actually just go back and check out this anomaly over here at this point. Next turn. More turns over here. So I do have two freighters here, and they're both being used for trade. Both freighters are being used for trade, which is bringing me in some extra money right now. Trade treaties, you can see 4. If I didn't have enough freighters, then I wouldn't be able to use up the entirety of the treaty, which would be bad. Now, what's interesting is you will normally see the freighters on the map. Maybe not for the trade ones. When they're shipping food back and forth, they do show up on the map, and they can be hunted down by pirates as well. Oh. Balance of power in the galaxy. We have it and you do not. If you wish to retain what little you have, I suggest you pay us. Wow. Interesting. Interesting. Ruthless imperialists. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and allow that for now. Might make me look a little bit chicken, but we'll come back. I'm going to focus on expanding for now. You are going to go and colonize Pearl 2. There we go. Yeah, ultra rich. It is radiated, so... Oh, and... where does it say the gravity? Oh, heavy G. So I've got a 25% penalty to production because of the high gravity. But that's going to be offset by the ultra richness. There's also a maintenance penalty because everything is radiated, so buildings get decayed a little bit faster. Right now, we are shrinking because we actually don't have any food being shipped out here. I believe if I were to go... Now, Earth is making +1 food. Oh, that freighter automatically gets tied up in trade right now. I wonder, how much would it cost me to rush by a freighter fleet? Okay, I can't do it yet. It will go down in cost. 4 turn to build. So right now the population on Pearl 1 is currently shrinking, and that's because there's not enough food. But it'll fix itself up pretty quickly. What do we want to build here? We could actually have it build the freighter fleet as well, because we're going to need a few of them. Infantry base. You know what? So we don't get conquered? That's not a bad idea. Or a star base to defend ourselves. Let's just start with the infantry base. It's cheaper. We'll get that going for a little bit of defenses. Next turn. Yes, we've got a food shortage. Ah! This is an anomaly we just checked out. The infested derelict. Your forces have encountered a derelict spacecraft of unknown origin. The hull appears to be intact with no sign of external damage. Most systems appear powered down, though a distinct radioactive signature indicates the ship's core is at least partially engaged. Bioscans are returning positive for life signs. If we came here with ground forces, we'd be able to investigate and capture the ship. All right, we will come back to that. That's another reason if we get some extra freighters going on, we can load up some dudes and come over here. Well, we're going to go ahead and end this video here. This is going to be the end of this Let's Try, but I'm actually going to come back and make sort of a mini Let's Play out of this. I don't know how many episodes I'll do it. Probably, we may not play a full game. We'll see if we get into it or not. But I'm going to keep playing this for now. Again, I'm still very new to this. There's a good chance that we will simply die. And, you know, that's, I guess, okay. I really love the fact that we can trade with the polyps by skipping the Draylaw Council completely. It's very, very, very interesting. We haven't actually looked at any of the space combat or the ground combat, so if you're interested in that, at least come back for one more episode, because I suspect there'll be a ground combat in the next go. See you next time, folks. Bye-bye.